guys, BBI here. I want to stop and say thanks for tuning in and checking out whatever the video is about that's about ready to come up next. If you could take a minute and hit subscribe, I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you enjoy what you've seen here, make sure to hit the like button. We'd greatly appreciate your support. Anyhow, guys, all that aside, let's get on with the show. Jesus. I gotta read you these notes that came with this box. Okay. You can tell this guy is completely ex-military. This note is written like orders. It's great. I love it. It's got his full name on it, address, phone number, everything I needed. Everything. Be advised, this is an xforce 2x12 box. Enclosed belongs to Mr. BBI. This amp has never performed as stated on the online write-up that xforce published online. I know 8 months is a long time. I'm sure I can hang around until you finish your magic work on bringing this amp up to par. I've watched you perform so many times on your videos, and it'll be worth it the wait for you to complete this task and receive your fee. Okay. Then down here in handwriting. P.S. I'm 90 years old. Old in parentheses. And then he says, I paid $22.80 for this, $2,280 for a 2x12. And I'm not going to read what he wrote down next. So basically he says that xforce is worse than the clap. It's like herpes. Okay, so then I received this in the mail the other day. This Mr. BBI Productions, even though that's not even a real name for me. Dear BBI, I'm sure you received my 2x12 box. I got this letter the day after this box showed up. He called me and he told me what had happened, and I felt bad. I felt bad for the guy. I was like, well, I'll do what I can to help you. I'm not taking on new projects at the moment. Well, guys, you can lay on the frickin' guilt now. I'm here to tell you. I'm sure you've received my 2x12 box at this point in time. Xforce, in parentheses. I'm writing you because I catched you on the telephone. It's hard to do business. It's hard to know you are a very busy man. So, I'm hoping this letter will bridge the gap, so to speak. I do recall you mentioning 8 months completion time due to your workload, which I can understand due to the fact that your talents are... We're going to skip over all this. However, I do know your procedure as well as when it took a first come, first serve, and I will set aside funds and money in a timely manner. Okay. I do want to set aside the needed funds so I can pay you in a timely manner. Okay. As you recall, I mentioned the fact that I just turned 90 years old, and I hope that could get you to soften up your first come, first serve policy. 8 months may be a short time for you young persons, but an old vet, parentheses Air Force, like me, 8 months is a prayer, and keeping your fingers crossed that they have not thrown dirt on your face yet in the graveyard. They have not thrown dirt in your face at the graveyard. I know you will sell the box in order to recoup your time and labor. That is understandable, but I want to pay you, and I want to enjoy some time transmitting with the unit before I make my way to the hereafter. Well, BBI, I've read my prayer, so if there is something you can do for this old vet, please do it. Ow. Ow. Okay. I told him I would do what I can. I told him I had 3 boxes that were in front of him that I had to get done, and then I've got everything. I'm sorry that pulled at my heartstrings. This is a one-time only thing. I'm never doing this again. You guys don't start writing me letters telling me you're 105 and the gravers are on the corner offering you a hand job to come across the river Styx. You want to hear it? Let's see what we got. It can't be that bad. It can't be that bad. I've got 3 videos on my computer that I'm editing and rendering right now. As you guys can see over here. I'm trying to slide this in between things. So I'm not going to drag out my timeline on my other responsibilities. But I'm kind of curious to see what is going on. Man, that was a guilt trip. Dirty, rotten bastard. Please note there's not a single PIM nut in this cabinet. All of these screws are machine nuts, machine screws. Oh, it's a late gen. Damn. It's got Toshibas in it. And they're strapped. Okay, so the driver is burned, the input driver, so he's got two 2290s. Driving 12 Toshibas. What the shit, Arlen? I'll start here. Here's the driver's section. And this is what I'm looking at. This is part of the low-high circuit. These 2 burn-up resistors. I see 604 and 500, so that's 1,104. Little tiny flybacks, and you had to strap the transistors to get enough ground across them. That was a downside of this style of an etched cabinet. It's got an adequate size relay, decent keying circuit, okay. Let's pan over here. And these are all red dot 2879 Toshibas. They've been hotter than piss though. The question is, how much of this is that marine wire? That driver section's just been hot. How much of this is marine wire? How much of this is Teflon? Teflon, not Teflon, Teflon, not Teflon, 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 not Teflon. Wow, okay. This is going to turn into a cap chase. And what I mean by that is these kind of caps here, this cap and this cap, these kind of things. This is where we're going to find our problems. That and over here, here, and here. I don't see any signs of an imbalance in the output transformer. I don't see any imbalance in the input transformer. I don't see any smoked up 10 ohmers anywhere in here. This is going to turn into a capacitor chase. Okay, well, I guess the next step would be to hook it up and run it and see what's actually turning on, but we got problems like this that we've got to overcome. This is no good. I do believe this is aluminum, so I'm trying to figure out how the hell he got these soldered on there. Well, that's how. They're not. This is an aluminum distribution lug, or bonding lug. Okay, let me clean this up. The ground lead is in just as rough shape for this thing. Let me clean this up, and I'm going to hook up a temporary ground lead, and let's take the lid off. Let's run it through its paces here real quick. Love the fact it's got Toshibas in it. They're all the same lot too. Alright, let's get after it. Okay, so we got this hooked up to the 1000 amp base, or the bench power supply. Let's go and shut this down. So we've got the 1000 watt slug over here in 5x position. That's how much we're putting it in for drive. 2000 whole watts. The low, medium, and the low and high does not do anything. Don't frankly even know why it's in there. Let's check it out. Well, shit. So let's count it up. 500, 1,000, 500, 1,000, 500, 1,000. So this box should do roughly 3,000 watts of power. And with 20-30 watts of drive, we're getting 2,000 out of it. So it's low. But what we don't have is any heating issues taking place. Nothing over here on the output side. No heating issues here. None. So it tells me it's close to being in resonance here. This is going to turn into a cap chase. The thing I don't like is that he's got 240 puff capacitors on each one of the input transformers. They should be 330s, so that's 100 low. Each one of these caps are the wrong value for... This would have been correct if we were using the later gen, the later version PP100s, like the 15s and 14s. This would have been correct. But for the 2879, this has got to be higher. I'm sure these little blue caps are not right, and I'm pretty sure these blue output caps are not correct. So this is going to be simple. This will be quick. I can make a quick turn on this and get this done for this guy. And I can go on living knowing that I have not had yet another guy die away waiting for me to work on their stuff. Let's start the capacitor chase. So what I'm doing now is I'm pulling out these little bullshit blue disc capacitors he's got where the 120 puff capacitors should be. We're testing them. Curiosity's sake, I know they're the wrong value there. This one's 77 puff. This one here, $74, $75 as it cools off. What's happening here is the part's cooling off. So that's the problem with these disc capacitors, they're not very stable. I'll bring heat to the situation. Not even touching the part, just putting warm air near it. That sucker count down. So you're going to go mount this on a heat sink with a piece of phenolic next to it. So 74 puff. No, like I said, we're not going to touch it. Put it in a couple 100-degree environment. I don't know if I'd want to have those in a $2,300 amplifier directly from Alibaba.com. See where it stabilizes. Doesn't matter, they're the wrong value completely anyhow. Whole box is full of caps that are the wrong value. Whole box. So I'm going to replace 90% of the caps in this amp. Well, yeah, about 90%. God damn, come on. Very unstable component. We're slowing down finally. 75, 70, 75.8, 75.4, 78.5, 75.9. Come on. Fucking garbage. That's all I know. Fucking garbage. Wrong value. Effing garbage. All right, let's start our F it bucket pile over. I don't know. We'll do it here today. We'll do it over here in this corner. Yay, garbage. Woo. 214 is supposed to be 240. It's low. Garbage. This one here, these are the caps off the input transformers, which are the wrong value in the first place. 209, that's supposed to be 240. It's garbage. This one here is 221. It's supposed to be 240. This one here is 219.5. So 10%. You're supposed to be 5% components. Let's see, this one here is 217.6. And this guy here is what? 219.9. So they're all 20 to 30 puff low on their face rated value. More love for the F it bucket pile. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Grab those two legs and these two legs. 1055. And it should be 604 and 500. So the heat has broken these down to where they're 100 puff low. That's garbage. From their face rated value, by the way, is what I'm getting at. Technically that's within spec for the component. We're looking for 1,000 puff here, and it's 1,046. Garbage. $1,058. $1,040. Jesus. Not one of these is going to be right. Not one. 1,043. I'm not lying. It's a 604 and a 500. Should read 1,004. And that's a 2% tolerant cap, 2% on that one, and a 5%. So 5% there on that one, 2% on that one. They shouldn't be this far off. 1040. Well, they're all off, but they're consistently the same off. That's interesting. Okay, let's pull all these worthless little blue disc capacitors out of here now, where the 120 should be. Cabbage. I'm still trying to figure out in my brain how this has got Toshibas in it. I don't understand what is going on here. But I'm going to take it and just run with it. I'm just grateful I don't have to replace the heatsink in this one. A lot of these last generation builds from him, we've all sat around and talked about it now. And when I mean all of us, I mean like every major amp builder in the world. We've all had the conversation with each other about what we've seen on the inside of these boxes. And we're kind of of the opinion that it was like he was just taking pieces of scrap heatsink that was sitting on the shop floor and throwing them in there, like this piece that I've got down here. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, let's see here. Taken from an Xforce 10 pill, TX800 on 8/30/18. A piece of scrap heatsink taken from a production amplifier, replaced by BBI with the right size. Yes, 10 pills are on this little piece of heatsink. He had 10 transistors mounted right down the middle of this heatsink, and I'm grateful that I'm not having to replace the heatsink in here. It goes all the way back to here the way it should. It's the appropriate width, and it goes all the way to the front of the cabinet. Now, it is a piece of Texas Star recycled heatsink, I will say that. It is anodized black, but it is the appropriate width, has the right fin count on it, and is long enough. So I don't have to rip it down to that level. Thank you, Jesus. But we all see these products. We all see each other's stuff, right? So we've all sat down and had the conversation amongst ourselves. Well, what have you seen? Well, this is what we've observed. It's not, it's kind of opinion, but when you're pulling pieces of aluminum on a regular basis, I've had to do this for 3 or 4 amps now, that I've got 10 transistors on a hunky heatsink that's like 4.5 inches wide and maybe 8.5, 9 inches long, or whatever this is. That's not right. There's not enough surface area to dissipate the heat. Well, who am I to say? Basic math. And even at that, the heat sinks that we're using in here for continuous operation are too small. For intermediate, maybe 15-20% intermediate duty, the heat sink is adequate enough. So, yeah, $1,000 worth of parts in here, and then surrounded by Alibaba 1-cent capacitors. These blue capacitors, I don't know why anybody uses these. They're unstable, they're not predictable, and when you get them out of the box and go to measure them, none of them measure the same. They're so cheaply made. Technically they are labeled as being the right value. They're not stable, as I just shown you. Just to put them in a little bit of heat and they come off the rails. I mean, yeah, the polymer caps that we're going to replace this with, I mean, yes, they're made in China, but they're built to a different standard. Let's see if we can take this one out of here. Okay. This is an output tuning capacitor. Let's see, what is this supposed to be? It is 6 kV, and it says 150J. So let's see what this actually turns out to be. I don't use these either. They're not. 121.8 puff. Yeah. It's just unbelievable. All the negative stuff that he said, the guy that owned this company at the end, he would get on Facebook and just unload on people. And now that it's over, we understand that there was a serious drug and alcohol addiction issue that was taking place, supposedly, and there were some other things that were going on. And it totally explained the erratic behavior that we were all seeing and questioning and trying to understand what was going on. Let's see, what does this one read? $121.5. I wonder about people sometimes and some of the things I've seen people do, specifically related to this guy. I wonder, he's a smart person, very smart person from what I can gather. If I remove all the negative stuff that he said about me or my family or my friends or all the other people that are in this business, if I can dismiss all of that ugliness from my mind, and we boil it down, the guy is actually a somewhat smart individual, but it's amazing how smart people will go and cloud themselves and make themselves 123.4. At least these are all kind of close in value. I mean, they're low, but at least they're not wildly different like what we've seen so far. I've got one more of these that I've got to pull out. I just wonder, smart people, why do they go and do drugs? I don't get it. I feel sorry for him. I do. Of course, then again, I feel sorry for anybody that spends most of their time running around on Facebook hating on other people. It's not like you don't have any other business that you could be taking care of right then instead of hating on Facebook. 121 flat. Like I said, they're all off. At least they're all consistently the same off. Okay. Let's bring you kids around here so you can see what I'm doing. The next step is power wires. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's show you what I mean. I got one of my caps up in here. Okay. So once again, we're going to put the soldering iron and we're not going to actually touch the cap. But look at how steady the capacitance level stays. Even in a heated environment. See what I'm getting at? So now, let's do the same test with one of these piece of shit blue ones that come off Alibaba. That's why I cringe when I see my fellow builders using these things. I'm like, dude, you know how big of garbage they are? And well, I've never had a problem with them. I got a friend of mine that says to me all the time. Not to mention that it's low on capacitance. Here, we'll do the same test. I'm just going to put the soldering iron next to it, not touch it. Down we go, man. Down we go. Not touching. Down we go. So, the point is, these are shit, and you should be ashamed of them if your builders used them. And you guys that are out there watching me, you need to take all these blue caps and throw them in the fuck it bucket and buy good ones. So what we're doing here is we're going to replace the input and output splitters completely. I couldn't help but notice I run this and I got the output up to about 2800 PEP, and I couldn't help but notice it was still dragging. It didn't want to take off the way I think it should, and I think the input and output turns ratios are set more up for a PP100 or the DEI 15.1 or 14.7. Each part requires a different input and output capacitor induction ratio. As we've moved through the different generations of transistors, we've had to change the number of turns. Well, this thing has got Toshibas in it, so I think our combiner induction is going to be a little bit different here. This part is truly, this is mathematical. The mathematics of induction for the frequency that we're at is pretty simple. This is too high for this particular situation, so it's derived directly from the frequency. And I don't want everybody to get their theory wrong. This is a 1 to 3. So it's a 3-port, 1 turn per port. And what we took out of here is what they call 3 to 3. So basically a 1 to 1. And this doesn't work too well. We've noticed that it's got some capacitance issues. That and the math doesn't work for it, for the frequency. But for some reason, if we do the induction change, this farther point in the circuit with these other devices has a tendency to work better. So, anywho, brand new 3 to 1 in the output side. And now we're going to go over here and we're going to look at the input side. We've got our new transformer installed, and our new splitter is installed over here. Once again, we don't use the fabric shops or the dollar store or Chinese freight hot glue here. I have to use an industrial hot glue that melts at about 100 or so degrees higher. It also seems to be a little bit more flexible, so it can put up with the flex of the board, be a little bit more tolerant in this position, and that's what we have replaced this with. So let me go ahead. I got to solder all this back together, turn this back into one part, and then we're going to see how the tune works out. So the capacitance tube's 105 puff, and then this Russian Droloric, because that's what this is 107 puff, which is 210 puff worth of capacitance. To me, that seems incredibly high. Yeah, I think I'm going to take that Russian Droloric out of there. I'm not. That's really high. Should be more around the 200 or 150 to 170 puff range. This, I think what he was shooting for was what he's used to working with, which is a PP100. So I don't know. I got to make this thing work, and it's still not right. We changed this transistor, and honestly, I think it failed because of the lid coming off and something migrating down inside the transistor. So I couldn't find anything wrong in the combiner. I took it all apart. The combiner, the 10 ohmer was good. I just put the 120 in there. I checked it as well. So the transistor failed. I'm glad it broke here and not when it got to the customer. That's all I can say about that. Okay, let's retune the output section. Back on the old camera here real quick. The reason we're doing this is so I can get in tight. We had this happen here. I went to go run this, and the transistor arced over here. And I went and I pulled the ground strap up, and the lid just came off. So we got to figure out what caused this. It just went boop underneath the transistor. I don't know. We'll figure that out. I have a feeling it has something to do with this here. So I'll tear this apart here in just a minute, and we'll figure out what the heck. Well, I'm done, finally. So let's start here. The output inductor, or I guess tank coil, or induction coil here, was way off. They had this shorted across here. remove that. Guess what? Our output power jumped way up. Then I had changed this cap, these caps, this cap, replaced your low and medium, or your high and low, changed this, pulled the Droloric out. This box has been a challenge on a lot of different levels because I don't know what material he used as his input transformer, which directly dictates how many windings you got to put in things. And it's done. That's all that matters. I had to change these input capacitors. They were 240. I went ahead and brought them up to 270 so they balance correctly. This was just a challenge. This is an exhausting challenge trying to figure my way around what is taking place here. So let me show you drive. This is a 1000 watt scale in 5x, 1000 watt scale in average. So 20 whole watts looks like on a 5000 watt scale. So we're going to run this thing in high. So our switch here, it's up in high. Okay, so let's go back over here and look at this. Yeah, it's 2800 peak power, and that's with 20 watts worth of drive. Let's go up here. We're going to look at our input tune. Oh, 955. I'm over here. Audio 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's stupid flat. One more time, we'll go back down over here. It's 2800 watts. 30 watts of drive on 14.5 volts. Now, what we can do is, let me zoom out here. Oh, before I zoom out, let me show you this. We're going to show you that the high and low switch is now working. I'd run it in the high position if it was me all the time. High position, 1 2. Low position. Like I said, run it in the high position at all times if you're going to use a low drive radio. So let's go over here. Let's bring our striker into play now. Instead of focusing a little bit of time, which took about an hour and a half to get the input tune right, he buried the input tune behind this kind of cheese dick attenuator voltage divider kind of circuit, and it's garbage, worthless. So I took the time and made the tune proper. So now what we can do is we'll go back over here again, tighten back in on the watt meter here, leaving it in the high position when you go and operate it like this. It's 100 watts on a 5,000 watt scale. Well, 90 watts give or take. Now we're right at 3,000 watts. The problem that we're running into is we can't get any more drive out of this 2-pil section. We're reaching saturation on the core. It's just, we're running at the very end of things. So 3,000 watts is what we predicted we would get. We got 3,000 watts. Fairly comfortable with that. Our input tune is perfect now. Everything's happy, including the striker. So we'll zoom in over here. So, long story short, this is about as good as I can get it without doing a massive overhaul, which, if we go over here and we look at the quantity of parts that had to be replaced and changed, kind of already did it. That's a lot of caps to have out of value. That's a lot of frickin' parts scattered throughout the box that, well, they're just wrong. Flat out wrong. I don't know how much longer this would have kept running. With the transistor, this one getting ready to go, probably would have popped eventually. But that's a lot of freaking bad caps that are the wrong value for the component that's in the box. So, I don't know. What I take away from this is it's a lot of work making some of these things run. I got one more thing I got to do. I think you all know what it is. Oh, wait a minute. I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. Alright, let me resituate here. I got two more things I got to do for this gentleman. The next thing we want to do is we want to clean this up. You'll never be able to solder to aluminum, bud. And I know now that you see this video, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I know that. Okay. Believe me when I tell you, I see kind of things like this all the time. It's not a big deal. So, I'm going to spend the rest of my day doing my other businesses. Just taking get rid of that. And let me grab the Allen wrench for this. I firmly believe that if I'm really delicate with this, I can get all the wires in here. We can make it so you'll have a standard connection now. The other thing I want to explain is that this is running in its optimal ideal conditions over here, okay? So, what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is, when you go and you put this in your truck, partner, I know he told me, he goes, the best I ever was able to get out of this amp was about 1200, 1300 watts. You're going to see significantly more than that. Are you going to see 3000? Not unless everything is absolutely beyond perfect in your vehicle, which I know it's not going to be. So a reasonable expectation from this box is going to be 2600 watts. Maybe, depending on your voltage, as low as 2400. But it's still 1000 more watts than what you had. And I guarantee you that connection, this pressure connection, was way better than the non-sticked solder connection that you had going on there. So make sure it's good and tight. Getting a heat shrink big enough. Should. This morning started early for me. I had to get up early so I could do this. I got other things I got to do, other business responsibilities. So while I'm dealing with other businesses, I'm going to finally jump onto that 24 pill for my friend 300. That poor guy. He's probably never going to speak to me again. I've been putting up that one segment of video about me losing all of that stuff. I've overcome that issue. I appreciate that. I've had about every one of my really good friends reach out to me and tell me, what do we got to do? Do we got to buy you new SD cards? What do we got to do? No. The builds have been stretched out over such a long, exorbitant amount of time that I end up running out of room on the other camera. And so I mistakenly deleted a bunch of old files on it, and I had all the build video files on that camera. Now we've changed since then. I bought several more SD cards, and yesterday I had a really good friend of mine call me up, actually a really good old friend of mine, mean, we're talking like, I've been friends with him for, oh geez, this is like 13, 14 years old. Anyhow, he called me up and says, well, I've got all these memory cards here. I think I'm going to give you a couple. I'm like, cool, I'll take free memory. Free memory is good. You know, you can't beat free. The way it stands now, though, I can record on this camera like almost 200 plus hours worth of video with the cards that are in it. Not 200. About 140, 130 hours. I mean, they're huge cards. So that problem has been thoroughly addressed. Thoroughly addressed. I found that this joint where the wire meets these aluminum connectors, these are designed for AC, home voltage. They work alright. You have to support the connector better. Otherwise the wire will break down right here. And that's the reason for the heat shrink. So now, that being done, let's go look at this. I think this comes off of a car. So, see how it's all corroded? And let's file that in the appropriate bin. Hold on a second. Boy, this morning's going. Gonna run out of butane, yep. Take two. Okay. Turn on the stop. Okay. Yay! Alright, so we're on the tail end of this thing. You guys can't tell I'm a little tired. Next couple days are going to be a little bit stressful. I've got multiple different things going on, multiple different platforms from multiple different companies. So I had to get an early jump on things today. Today's going to be a long 19-hour day. But it's worth it in the end run. A bunch of people will be happy. So, alright, man. Your amp is done, brother. I'm going to put the lid on it and put all the screws back in by hand because they're all machine screws. Remember that if you ever do take it apart, this amp was built with sheet metal screws, which I'm strongly opposed to. But nothing we can do about it today. That's it. Another xforce 2x12 brought back from the grave of death. I gotta go jump onto this 24 pill build, so you guys won't hear from me for a good 2-3 days, probably 2 days. At least 2, maybe 3. Probably be Saturday before I'm done with it, so. Guys, I gotta go. I got a bunch of things I gotta do and a bunch of people I gotta make happy, as always. Gentlemen, my name is BBI. I hope you appreciated this little show. Come check us out, www.bbimps.com. Come find me on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram. And if you like what you've seen, just do me a favor, click subscribe. Okay, I gotta go find motivation. I'll see you. Bye.